I've got about 10 minutes to visit with you a bit about some of our soybean work. And the first thing, I'd like to have you open your booklet to page 10. And a lot of you have seen a chart like this. We've been compiling for a number of years. The thing is, we keep revising it. So the last revision was made 2014, and in another month or so we'll get to revise it some more with new data. So these are 9 establishment factors that we've done research with, and we like a person to be on the A column versus the B column because of the yield increase in A. As an example, tillage system. If over 19 site years of data, we found that on average a reduced till system such as strip till, direct seeding, no-till will provide a yield advantage primarily with some additional soil moisture to help the yield as compared to conventional till. So you can look through and see the factors. You notice that with a number of them, we do have a fairly small database. And so we're working on that. In fact, this year we're working on, to my knowledge, at least 4 of them. So starting on the bottom, the timing of initial weed removal, you notice that so far we have 5 site years of data. And so far we're seeing that if a person can start weed control at planting, you'll see a 4% yield increase compared to early post. And of course you have another really good reason, and that is using a soil applied product will help with resistant weed management as well. Another one where we're short on a database would be phosphorus application at planting time. We recommend broadcast application versus banded. So far after 5 trials we have a big fat 0. But we're working on that, and we hope and will continue to recommend that broadcast will be a better method of phosphorus application versus a concentrated band. Another one where we need more data is seed inoculation with soybean history. And if we look at very large databases, typically there's a couple bushel yield increase with just routinely inoculating versus saying, it's not worth the convenience. Most people aren't worried about the expense, it's the convenience or inconvenience that's the problem. So, and you can see that, well, we need a little bit bigger database to draw conclusions. And then the final one, where we're pretty small, is up toward the top, planting date. This is one I'm quite excited about. Unfortunately, Mother Nature hasn't been especially cooperative with us the last 2 years. So, so far we have just 4 trials where we've been able to plant soybeans early, as in the last week in April or the first week to 10 days in May. And notice, with a very small database, a very substantial yield increase by planting early versus the more typical time in mid to late May. You see the early planting data that we've generated so far. On some of the late planting soybean data we've generated, when we look across years and trials, we see a yield reduction of about 5 to 8% by planting in June versus the last half of May. We, I mean NDSU, have a lot of studies in place looking at planting date. And one study is actually one that we're coordinating. It's sponsored by the North Dakota Soybean Council, and we have 4 locations where we're looking at 2 planting dates and then 2 maturity groups. The maturity groups are 0.2 and 0.8. And so we have sites here as well as at Wishick, Daisy, and at Prosper. Of the 4 sites, the one I'm most excited about is the one here. We're not going to stop and talk about it today, but you'll be able to go by if our driver remembers to do that, and you'll see the placards that show the planting dates of May 5th and then May 23rd. And I wasn't so sure in early June if that early planting was a good idea, but it's looking pretty good at this point. I'm really anxious to see what the yields are with that. The other sites, the first planting date was in mid-May, and then the second one was late May or even into June. Another trial that Mike Osley has that is along the trees over there is one also sponsored with the Soybean Council. He's looking at late planting and the interaction with plant populations, because maybe if we force the plant in June, do we need 150,000 plants established like NDSU recommends? Maybe we can get by with less, or maybe we need more. So we're trying to answer that question. He has one other location in Manitoba, and that's being managed by Yvonne Lawley, who is a former research agronomist here at Carrington. She was from Canada, and unfortunately she went back, but she's doing that cooperative work with us. Hans also has a planting day trial in Fargo under his tile system. And then a 4th one is the one that we're looking at right now. This is coordinated by Burton Johnson. He's a specialty crop researcher at NDSU, and he has 3 sites for this particular trial, at Lisbon, at Prosper, and then here. He's got 2 varieties. He has a 009 variety, and that happens to be, let's see, yeah, right here. This is 009 with the earliest planting date. I'll tell you those planting dates. I don't have them memorized. I've got to take a look. The first one is May 23rd, also June 4th, the 13th, 23rd, and then July 3rd and July 10th. So 6 planting dates starting on July 23rd and then ending on, or excuse me, starting May 23rd and then ending on July 10th. And then this is the other variety planted on the early date. And this is a Pioneer variety, and it's 90Y70. John, does that mean 0.7 maturity?
You'll have to talk to somebody who knows more than I do, but I think so.
Okay. And then the late planting date, if you're curious, this is 0.7 with the late July, or the July planting date. What do they say? July 10th. July 10th was 0.7, and here's the July 10th with the 009. So the main objective with this trial is to look at yield, of course, with late planting, and then also they're using the data to generate sometime a development table to help track the soybean growth using growing degree day units. So that's really one of our emphasis points in soybean this year is planting dates. But I wish we had more early planting. And so we'll try it again next year. Maybe Mother Nature will help us. Yeah, and then finally, in your booklet, on pages 11 through 14, is a circular that Hans and I wrote this spring, looking at 9 site years of data where we explored a number of establishment factors. They included planting rates, and we were looking at pure live seed at 150,000 and 200,000, row spacing of 14 and 28 inches, and then a series of special foliar inputs. They included a fungicide, included the growth promoter, and then also included a foliar fertilizer mix. And what we found, just to tease you a little bit, is the combination of the 14-inch rows, the lower planting rate, 150,000 pure live seeds, and no special inputs, economically was the best combination. Any quick questions? I'll take 1 or 2.
You have some deer preference here on your plant? You have some deer foraging preference here?
Yeah. Maybe we could have a sub-study in here and see if they like the eggs go better than Pioneer variety. We found in other work, like with corn, it seemed like the healthiest corn plots, they're the ones the deer feed on. They don't like the junk, the untreated checks, they leave that alone.
They're not dumb.
Yeah. Like on the trial that you'll go by where we planted on May 5th, we had numerous nights and next mornings where there was frost in the ground after we planted. And, but actually when we planted,
the germination,
it took forever. It was 3.5 weeks for the plants to emerge. They emerged almost like a few days ahead of the May 23rd planting dates. Yeah. And the soil was cool. It was, gosh, mid-40s. But, so it makes me wonder, we talk about imbibitional chilling, maybe we over-talk about it. At least based on this trial, it makes me wonder.